Thanks, Ellison, and thanks, panelists. Interesting, another tremendous set of perspectives. So we are at our last session, and it's as thought-provoking as all the others. Roger Soleil has been the Chief Marketing Officer at WeWork since April. What an interesting time to join WeWork, Roger. Roger is going to share a fascinating view of what companies' use of physical space may look like in the months and years to come, and how WeWork is proceeding along with its journey. Tim Kobe is a design leader, author, founder of the globally recognized strategic and experienced design firm 8 Inc., which has worked with the likes of Apple, Virgin Atlantic, Nike, and Coke. And Tim will share his particular views of the role of physical space, the new and old truths that will be part of the future. So introducing Reimagining the Physical World.
Thank you for the so our physical world. Tim Kobe. To do was to start with a short introduction to some of the key points I might use for further discussion in the question and answers. If we're going to reimagine the environment, we begin by thinking about not so much that we're creating it. The rate of change is driving us these days. It means we can redefine the problem in a way that doesn't result in the same outcomes that we've had in the past. Also means that we need to look at moving from more tactical types of solutions that we've previously done, higher return on experience, a higher value, and focus on designing human. Our group has been built on the premise that design defines human progress. And as you may expect from here, we're big advocates of design to create, and the purpose of is really to contribute to finding better ways to accomplish, better ways for people, happier and more meaningful. Next slide, please. So in designing human experience, we think we can break into each of the key words briefly about what each of those points are. Design, as I said, is more of a strategic tool. It's not just the way something looks or we've been working at Apple for 23 years. But one of the things in working with Steve Jobs was the focus on what design. That ladders back to really the core idea behind how to create value and design. Next slide. If we're looking at the human portion, then what does that mean? What are the types of things that we can do in our relationships with one another? So looking at people, graphics and demographics, but starting to understand the types of things that drive behavior, and particularly during COVID, the things limiting to do an ever next. And so the third part then is recognizing that we have an option through experience to define things that actually behavior. A lot of companies spend a lot of time communicating information. Unfortunately, it doesn't drive behavior. It means dealing with a brain that actually is more at the same time something that you feel, something that you process through a logic system. Next slide. Is that you get return on experience. Probably the most important part is but what we know is that if you're successful at delivering this experience, you have an opportunity to have greater lift, greater conversions. Many of the businesses are primarily other things make like the idea that you're generating advocacy and people who who will become advocates of yours more and more. Also, create a condition where people are willing to forgive you when you make a mistake, which every brand leads to the relationship that you're looking to develop. And we use something called a value creation, and so we focus first comes without that being top of the decision tree performance tactics, but out and those out and ultimately create value for. Next slide. And so for us, as a value creation tool, your brand and with other people, you're fundamentally moving to a relationship-based engagement, and a successful in a COVID or COVID work. Turn that over to Roger.
Thank you, Tim. So, yeah, I've been 6 months at WeWork already, and let me share with you. And I know WeWork has been known for many things, but right now my job is to make it known for the right things, right? So, can you please show the slides? Yeah. Can you move forward, please? Thank you. And what we should be known for is that we are the world's largest flexible space provider. Today we are present in 38 countries, and we are in 150 cities around the world. Next slide, please. And the fact is that we are, all of us, going through this work from home experiment, and through all the research and everything, we have been asking our own members and prospects, and we know that employees are struggling. So this work from home brought some interesting things that are going to stay, but most people, 90% of employees, relate that they want to return to the office at least 1 day a week, and they relate also decreased innovation, poor collaboration, eroding company culture, and especially the lower levels, they claim that they see that their career growth opportunities are diminished because of this situation. So, and now that we've got the vaccines coming, the question is, okay, what's going to happen, right? And I think we all know that what we have today is not working, but also that what the future is going to be looking like is very different from what it was. We don't think that there's going to be a 9 to 5, 7 day or 5 days a week corporate headquarters with a lot of cubicles, right? That's not the future. So what is the future, right? So next slide, please. So the trends that we are seeing that are happening and that we see them emerging, it's these 4 here. So first, the work from near home, right? So especially now during the pandemic, people are looking for spaces where they can concentrate, where they can be more productive, away from distractions. Second one is decentralized offices. So basically, the idea that companies don't need anymore a corporate headquarters, that it's very sometimes difficult to maintain, and that it requires long commutes of people to get there, right? So the idea that offices can be distributed, and it also leads us to the third trend, the collaboration hubs, which is that when employees come together, it's not going to be to be in a cubicle, right? It's going to be to have real productive conversations, innovation sessions, collaboration sessions, and the physical layout is going to have to be developed according to that particular need. That's why people are coming back to the office, right? To work in these kind of sessions, and that are the ones that really are the DNA of corporate culture and of creating the next new projects and the next things within a company, right? So, and then finally, the densified spaces. That's very connected to the pandemic, but we think that's gonna stay as well. So I think that this health and safety culture is here to stay as well, and having spaces where people have more to work and to collaborate. That's going to happen as well. So this is what we're seeing. So ultimately, if you can summarize it into words, we think that the future of work is going to be flexible, and right now, especially with the focus on health and safety. Next slide, please. Yeah. So in terms of our products and our value proposition, so we have adjusted our product line because of this pandemic, and this is basically what was one of my first assignments, and it's adjusting what we sell, right? So, and we have just recently launched a couple of products. One of them is called WeWork On Demand, and the other is WeWork All Access. The first one is an app where you can look at what office space around you at any WeWork, and you can book it by the day, either a conference room or a private office or just a desk. There's a second one that's WeWork All Access, where it's the same concept, but it gives you for a monthly fee, you have access to any WeWork office around the world, but most importantly right now, it's in the city where you are, right? And these two products go very well, to basically satisfy the need of work from near home or decentralized offices in the case of All Access. Then our core product, Dedicated Space, that's usually it's our standard product where you could always buy at WeWork a standard office or an office suite, which gives some additional amenities, or a full floor building if you were a larger corporation. So now the way that our customers are buying this now is different, right? So instead, again, of having a lot of cubicles, what they want is to build a collaboration hub or to de-densify an existing office so that they can have more people coming back to work, or to go with this decentralization, right? So they start to look for flexible space around the city or in a big market, in a more distributed manner. So these are the trends we're seeing, and these are the products that we have developed and adjusted for that. And also an adjustment that we made in our Dedicated Space product is that we added the All Access membership to all of them. So today, if one of our members has an office in, let's say, a building in Manhattan, they have the All Access card that gives them access to any building in the city, again, to avoid commutes and to give them more flexibility. Next slide, please. So ultimately, with all of that, we developed a branding concept or a branding platform that we are calling That's How Tomorrow Works. We think that's connected to the zeitgeist, to what's going on, and I think people really want to know, are anxious to know how is the future of work going to be. And we think that WeWork is the most prepared to show it, and because we are building it, right? We're developing it and we are pitching it to customers, and we are seeing a lot of traction on that. And I would love to share with you a video which is the teaser of our campaign related to this new branding platform.
Back to work. Something we used to say without much thought. Now, it's never carried more weight. We know things will be different, but are asking ourselves, how will it work? How will we put our heads together in a space that makes us feel safe? How can we avoid fixed costs in a variable world? How do we build a business without building an office and transform the workspace from a place to come to work to a space where work comes to life? How do we go from what wasn't working to what will?
And together with this campaign, you'll see in certain cities, like for example in New York, we have this outdoor campaign where you can see that the map of New York with all the buildings where we are present, and suggesting that there's a WeWork just a walk away, right? Which again gives the idea. Here we go. That which is a reality, right? That every New Yorker has a WeWork in a 10-minute walk, right? So again, that's a completely different approach to working, right? It means that, hey, now you are really prioritizing lower commutes, more convenience, and a healthy space where you can concentrate. So this would be our approach to these difficult times we're living right now.
So, Raj, I have a couple of questions. I think your presentation was great, and I know that WeWork always has had this legacy of being the innovator, being a type of company that's responding probably the most proactively to changes. I'm wondering, in the opportunities you identified, I'm probably the most fascinated by this distributed model. The idea that, if you look at the learnings from COVID, one of the things we found is spending a lot of time commuting to and from places isn't particularly appealing. But we do miss each other, and we like to be together and be together in spaces as human beings. So this distributed model, maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that, but I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think, look, it can change the way we live, right, and cities if this actually comes to life. Ultimately, the idea behind it is that nobody really should be commuting a lot anywhere, right? So and people should have this cluster of places where they need to go, very close to where they live. So ultimately, companies that want to recruit the best talent should have offices close to where talent lives, right? And these distributed offices would be the places where the vision would be that they would gather during the day. You go to your home at night, but during the day, your daily activities and basically work being number one would be done in that place. Again, close to your home. Ideally, you can go by bike or walking, and other activities should be around, right? So if you want to receive your Amazon packages, it needs to be there eventually, or if you want to, and the food that you want, it needs to be delivered there, right? And again, that's why we're developing a few ideas connected to that vision, right? So ultimately, partnerships with food companies, food delivery companies, so ultimately all the convenience should be around the place that you go during the day, and creating this magnet, right? A place that should be a magnet for your daily activities, and that's completely different of the corporate headquarters model, which is basically getting into a dark gray building that eventually is very far away from where you live, and where it has none of these conveniences. Then you need to go find this somewhere else, right? So ultimately, it's a more human world, right? And maybe trying to connect to your vision of that, like, everything ultimately is a human experience, right? That would probably be connected to vision and be maybe your most relevant human experience, right? Which is how you go to work and what do you do with the way that you work.
So we've always used a model, small teams, but in distributed locations in many places around the world. I'm wondering, does this setup for WeWork with this idea of teams? Because I think you tend to have an opportunity for not just connecting person to person as we do on Zoom, but starting to work in small teams, connecting with other teams that may be in other locations. And that distributed model that you described seems like an appropriate way to respond to that. As we start to emerge clusters of teams, how do we keep them connected?
Yeah, and in a way, if it facilitates that vision, if the team that you need to be interacting with it is close to where you are, right? Then the other question would be, what happens when you need to have a connection with people or teams that are distributed maybe around the world, right, or in other places of the city? And there is where also we need to develop technology that is better than just being on a Zoom call, right? But we know all the limitations of a Zoom call for many things, right? So how do we create a technological environment in our conference rooms at WeWork so that you can have an experience that's closer to being together, right? And we think that's also going to be that's also going to enable this model of distributed offices, right? Because ultimately, if that office has all the technology that enables you to have very productive team meetings, that's going to also make less and less relevant, like the corporate headquarters, right? And companies, I think, that would be more open to really work on very distributed offices, and it would enable the dream of a lot of people of just living anywhere, right? Living anywhere, as long as there's a WeWork, or if we have a good competitor, whoever builds this kind of vision, right, of distributed offices. So if you are close to a WeWork, you can work anywhere, right? So maybe we need to open WeWorks in Playa del Carmen in Mexico. I don't know. Now we don't have any. But the point is that I see that if that comes true, that's eventually where things are going, right?
No, that's fantastic. Maybe with a few minutes left, we bring Tom back in, and I think Tom was going to try to facilitate some additional Q&A, maybe from the audience.
Yep. And Tim, while he joins, if I may, in terms of design, so in the past, in the last pandemic, right, of 1918, there were very many architectural changes that happened because of the pandemic, right? All the clean architecture and the Bauhaus movement, and so which created these very clean environments that we associate to modern architecture, right? So, are you seeing any lasting changes because of the pandemic, also on design, in commercial environments or in any other environment that are here to stay?
So I think one of the key things that we're looking at has been around the design of cities, and the notion that rather than having separate zones that we move masses of people from one point to another, the idea that mixed-use type communities, creating nodes rather than districts, nodes that have a full complement of living, working, and playing. And so I think as you see the office landscape change, particularly in dense urban areas, of living start to become more, and that's probably one of the things that we will see both in terms of real estate development as well as urban planning, is this kind of separation and destination kind of model will have more in proximity to the types of things that you do on a regular basis, and we need some type of engagement tool, such as WeWork, to start to bring these distributed points together. So that's one of the key things we've seen in the design of physical spaces.
Very interesting. Thank you.
So, Roger and Tim, I want to thank you for the content that you shared, and I think that you both have amazing perspectives. Both of your firms having amazing perspectives on the future of physical space and the physical and the approaches to how we're going to work tomorrow. And I just have one quick question, because we've kind of run out of time for our event today, and I don't want to keep people too much longer than the prescribed time. But I'm very interested in your perspective on many things, but this one in particular. Are you optimistic about the future of cities?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic. There was a great piece in Financially about cities and what value they have historically, and I think that idea of being there's a reason that the fundamentals of our society in solitary is it's It's the most painful thing. And anybody who's spent months in lock-on Zoom calls to the fact that at a certain point you miss one. But the city pandemic, the history has been from the pandemic to then evolve the city, make the experience in cities one that is smarter and responding to the crisis that they were. Whenever we have a to be made from that provided, and we focus to way.
I'm also very optimistic, and I think the cities will be different. They will probably be distributed among themselves within these hubs, but I think the value of the cities is still there, and we're gonna see they just are going to evolve, in my humble opinion.
Well, thank you both again, and I'm glad that you both answered the question in your own way, but that way, because I agree and I'm optimistic too. So with that said, thanks again, and I'm going to turn the presentation over to close to my co-host Beth Pamonte for closing remarks.